Hey, good morning, everyone. What is up? It is December 4th, it's December 4th. Um, Wednesday, December 4th, and markets are making new all-time highs. What a nice little juicy move. Finally, the Nasdaq has broken through those all-time highs as the S&P has been gliding around, but one of the interesting factors is that the breath doesn't seem too sexy on this rally higher. Now, things are probably going to change, but if we're taking a look over the past 2 days, the S&P has not necessarily shown too many signs of complete strength. One of the big things that we noticed was that multiple out of the sectors out of the SPY, right? The SPY has 11 general sectors, and the last 2 days, yesterday, about 2 out of those 11 sectors were green. The day before that, 3 out of those 11 sectors were green, but we keep pushing into all-time highs. Finally, the Nasdaq has completed that move and pressed into a new all-time high. Yesterday we were very close into the close of the session, but today, right, pre-market, right now on the overnight, things are hammering home as this thing continues to unwind this massive continued rally as we have it today. So Nasdaq futures up at 21,450 area. I believe the exact high right now is 21,449.50. So about half a point away from that 450 area as we continue that momentum press to the upside swing. Now, in terms of mega cap tech stocks, right, they're not necessarily on a huge rally to the upside swing, right? A lot of these individual tech names are still holding out, right? We have things like Apple that have traded into all-time highs and are continuously trading into all-time highs. But then you have laggards Amazon is now at a new all-time high, but Microsoft is lagging behind a decent bit, right? Being oversold. Google is lagging behind a decent bit. You have Meta that's most likely trading at an all-time high. There you go. And we have, what else? NVIDIA. Right, NVIDIA not necessarily at all-time highs after a decent little pullback after that earnings period. So there is a bit of a divergence here in big tech where we haven't fully seen that potential and that expansion higher. You look at some of these other things that give you a little more understanding of what's going on. The Dow Jones, generally a leader with value, isn't fully into all-time highs, so it's lagging behind a little, and so are small caps like IWM. So the internals on the breadth side aren't that attractive as prices continue to hold out to the upside swing. But at the same time, right, trying to constantly try to call tops and sell these monster rallies is a recipe for disaster. The only way that I would be looking for a short or hesitant on these longs is if we start accumulating distribution acceptances to the downside swing. Again, something that necessarily hasn't happened. You also have to keep in mind that we're in a seasonal period where into the end of the year we technically have a decent little anticipated move to the upside swing. I know a lot of people are trying to seasonally look at Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving sell-offs and then rallies. I just think we're getting into a too convoluted of a space where you've got only a handful of weeks left until the end of the year where markets just tend to want to see that continuation rally hold out. So in terms of some of the other news, we've had decent upside momentum throughout pretty much all facets. A lot of the general sectors have been climbing over the past few weeks. One of the big issues is that the laggards of the sectors over the last 2 days are a little cumbersome, but surely with this all-time high momentum move, we should start turning back to the upside swing. So we also have some news. Mainly, I believe it's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. Let's just take a look at good old Forex Factory to see what's cooking. So today out of the U.S., we don't really have too much. We have final services PMI, ISM PMI. We had the ADP non-farm employment change, so this is a precursor to the non-farm payrolls that come out this Friday pre-market, which is going to be an interesting market mover, right? We ought to keep that one in mind. Non-farms are expected to come out with, where is it? Let me see what it is. 218,000 expected. Prior was 12,000, so drastic difference there. But today we also have Jerome Powell. He speaks at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's going to be a pretty interesting concept to take a look at what's going on in that realm. And then tomorrow, Thursday, we don't really have too much. Then Friday is going to be the main catalyst for this week as we have it right now. So not really too much to go by. It's mainly a technical trading period where news isn't expected to affect things as much, realistically. We are continuously pushing into all-time highs, and who knows, right? I've seen a lot of people look at 6,200 as a year-end target on the S&P 500. 6,200 isn't very far away from where we're kind of rotating right now. One of the big factors would be to let, or to see at least, the overall sectors and everything kind of coincide with a movement to the upside swing, because you can see even from yesterday the breadth on both the NASDAQ and the S&P in different lengths hasn't necessarily peaked out at some kind of extreme overbought territory, or for that matter, hasn't peaked out aggressively at all, right? Yesterday was a green day at the end of the day, but breadth even like ticked down a little. So it's a little bit of a divergence right now, right? It's a little cumbersome where a lot of individual names aren't necessarily pulling up aggressively while the market's being held up by a few select guys. So today, should we see that kind of continued momentum, we would want to see that the breadth starts to coincide to the upside swing and a lot of these sectors get their act together for this upside momentum move. Now, if we're talking about futures here, the S&P 500, I've got two levels that I would consider decent trades to continue the upside momentum that I'll be watching and looking for today. Yesterday, remember, we talked about 50. Today, we have maybe a B level setup around the mid-70 realistically. And then I would say the highest probability, should we venture into that mid-60, that's the area that you'd want to get long. You have this like slow grind to the upside on the overnight on both of these. There's a pretty decent probability that the first move is profit taking. We'll see some kind of pullback. Now, how drastic is this pullback? Only time will tell, but NASDAQ's continued momentum move, it's a very, very long way away from the prior all-time high as well as a prior balance high. So seeing a massive downside momentum move would really deter this current momentum that's springing to the upside. So the higher we go on NASDAQ, the more shallow the pullback I would expect, but I'd expect a pullback around the open session. So, as I said, let us open up our trading room here. We'll see you all in there. We've had a good week so far, and today, with these kinds of moves that happen super aggressively on the overnight session, there wasn't even a trade on the overnight, honestly. Like, I couldn't necessarily get long anywhere. I didn't really see any pullbacks by the time I sat down and looked at this thing. So I'm positionless on the day trade front. Going into this morning session, probably going to close out some swings off the open, and we'll see. It's going to be a very patient day, right? These kind of expansive moves, the more you get giddy trying to sell this or trying to buy this, regardless of what you do, activity into areas that haven't been explored yet is just, it's a tough reasoning to trade, right? I want to see more information, meaning that let's see if we can get some kind of pullback, and then we'll go from there. So just two areas on the S&P that I'm interested in. NASDAQ, probably a bit lower. I'm looking at the prior all-time high, which is very aggressive. A minor area is like 370, 380, which is like setting up to be, I would say right now, the lowest probability trade, but we'll see how that goes. So have a great trading day, everyone. Let's open up our live trading room. We'll see you guys in there. We will do this tomorrow, and we'll stream on Friday. We're back on the stream sesh to close out the week and wrap things up after